All right, my name is Nick Rose. I'm 28 years old, 5'9". My weight right now, I'm down to like 225, a little less I think than last time we shot. Just been tightening up.
And you're in the middle of your off season right now.
Yep. Just trying to have a better quality off season. That's why I've been tightening up a bit and got a little vacation coming up. So just want to look good, but just trying to improve as an overall bodybuilder and not, trying to keep things within better parameters, I guess, for the off season.
Okay, you were never one who got all crazy anyway, like with your off season weight anyway, did you?
Yeah, not really crazy, but I think each off season I try to improve on and get less and less sloppy. Trying not to use it as an excuse to, get fat. We do need calorie surplus to grow, but we need enough for muscle growth. We don't need to actually for muscle growth and put on a lot of body fat. Hopefully, like I was telling you, hopefully it'll pay off in my prep, make prep easier and help me come in tighter. Just trying to improve.
Okay, what's the last show you did?
Last one was North Americans, 2013. I didn't place there. No reason. I just not good enough yet.
But that was your first year, the first national show?
Yeah, first national show. Yeah, I think that would have been my fourth show ever. It was my third one for that year. I tried to come in big because with my height, I was in light heavies, and a lot of light heavies are a few inches shorter than me, so they're same amount of mass on a shorter frame, so they're pretty stacked. So I came in, I carved up pretty hard. I think I weighed in 198 on the dot, and then a few days later when we competed, I was 211. So it washed me out a bit, but I did come in pretty full. But I learned a lot because I had never tried that before. So and I knew either way it wasn't really going to make or break like a great placing. So
You won some of the state level shows that year, though.
yeah, well, took second at the state championship, and I did a local show earlier in the year as like a warm-up. Won that show. It just so happened that was like my best showing conditioning ever, and I didn't really try to do anything special for the show, so it's kind of ironic.
Okay. What are your plans for, I know you have an off season here, what are your plans for next year?
Re-qualify for a national show. We got a big national qualifier in Grand Rapids at the end of May. When I went to the show this last year, I think they said it's like the second or third or something biggest national qualifier of the nation or something. That's what the promoter, they said. It was a really big show. I mean, the dang thing went till like 1:30 a.m. So there was a lot of competitors. Yeah, DC training. Most of I think about year and a half, I've been doing volume training based off of mountain dog style. I've liked it, but even if you listen to Ken Skip Hill, like even as he says, everything works for a while. You do need to switch stuff up, whether it's routine or just the way you approach everything. So all my workouts are different, but it's got to be a bit more than that. So I've been training 6 days a week, hitting everything twice a week, usually one heavier day, kind of like what Mountain Dog does, one heavier day, one more of a volume pump day. But I think as I wind down towards the end of the year here, before I start prep, I'll start like either a DC style training or back down to like 3 or 4 days a week, just to lift a bit heavier, maintain my my muscle mass and stuff as I kind of back off everything. But
what would you say, Nick, to people who are because I know you hear some people talk about like, oh, what about overtraining and stuff?
Yeah.
Like, what's your opinion
on that? I think to truly overtrain, it takes quite a bit to really truly overtrain. You really got to be in a deficit of everything from food to sleep to everything, I think, to truly overtrain, like the overtraining syndrome, they call it. Because there also is a thing called a repeated bout effect. Like the more often you train a muscle, it will improve in recovery ability. So you have that too, but even with my times in the military, being in like food deprived, sleep deprived for days and days and days. You know, I've done things where we've been food and sleep deprived for an entire week. You know, maybe eating 2 meals for an entire week and never stop moving our bodies except for maybe a few hours at night, and doing that for a week. And I don't know, I don't even feel like we're exhausted as shit, but I don't feel, you know, even that overtrained anyone, because after the weekend you recover, you might be beat up a little bit. But so truly being overtrained, I think, is quite tough, especially with our, you know, cush American lives. We got the food available to us, we sleep, you know. I know a lot of people have stressful lives and stuff, but I don't know, like I said, truly overtrained I think is pretty tough. But you need to listen to your body. You know, certain body parts recover faster than others. And I wouldn't call that overtraining. It's just maybe something needs more recovery or it needs even more stimulus. So there's, I think, more efficient ways to train certain body parts to get them to respond the best. But just because they're not responding the best doesn't mean you're overtraining it.
Okay, but today you did arms, man. Go ahead and take us through your arms workout and tell us the movements and what you like about those.
Yep. Let's say we just did arms by itself. I usually don't do that. Usually my split's like chest and then just like a couple heavier tri movements, and then back and a couple heavy bi movements. And then usually with arms, like we did today, I'll hit shoulders first and then like some pump arm movement stuff. And then the next day after that, it's legs. And then I usually repeat and then take the 7th day off. But I hit shoulders last night, so we could have, you know, have a little fun today and hit some arms. Let's see. And because today is like more of like a pump day, we did everything supersetted. So we started with just some reverse grip curls, and then supersetted with just some tricep push downs. Try to keep the pace up. Don't go really too heavy because it does catch up to you when you start, you know, when you keep the pace high. Just did that. Didn't really try to worry about reps or anything because the first one did like 15 or 20 on some stuff. But hit you know, the brachialis, get the elbows and get the tricep pumped up, and then I think we did like 3 or so sets of that. And then we moved on to a machine preacher, supersetted with kind of a kickback. I set a long rope on a pulley system about mid-height, and then lean over and kind of kick it back. It contracts the tricep in the very shortened position. That really knots it up and really gets it full. So we did those back to back. I think we did a drop set at the end of those. Kept it around, you know, 12 or so, maybe 15 on a couple. And then after that, we went to hammer dips. We did hammer dips. Should have went a little heavier on those. It wasn't too hard. I did like 15 reps on those. Usually especially on dips, because it's a compound tricep movement, I usually try to get down to, I keep adding weight, usually get down to like 8, 10, and then finish that with a drop, but didn't really go heavy today, just kept it moving quickly. Supersetted that with like a cable front double bicep curl. That's like what I picture when I'm doing them, is just kind of hitting a front double bi. So we supersetted those together. And then after that, we just did some incline dumbbell curls. Especially after the workout, don't use much weight with those. We get a decent incline, I stick my chest up, roll my shoulders back, and really just focus on stretching the biceps. So when I go down, full stretch. You can almost contract your triceps to fully stretch your bicep, and then come up without lifting the elbow and actually bringing the arm up, but just keep the elbow pointed down and just contract and squeeze the it's my phone. squeeze the bicep. And then after you kind of get towards failure, just sit in the stretch position and stretch the crap out of it. And then supersetted that with some rope behind the head extensions. So both of these are like a stretch. They work the muscle from the stretch position, which I like to finish with, because after the muscle's fully pumped and it's fully pumped and tight, working the muscle from the stretch position really really opens them up and puts a lot of stress on it, because you're just, with the full pump, the stretch is really intense. So whether fascia, whether you believe in actually stretching fascia or just, there's correlations with stretching and growth. That's why we do full range of motion, really force stretching. And so that's what I do. That's why I do it at the end of most movements. I usually finish a muscle group with some kind of stretching movement after it's fully pumped and pretty exhausted. Yeah, I've always needed to get bigger arms and pretty much almost everything. But like my strong point, my legs. So I'm not really like stressing on bringing those up. My chest is all right. So shoulders and arms, but I think number one priority is trying to get my lat width up, get them thicker, wider. I've always had real strong like erectors and stuff like in the middle of my back, but getting those lats, getting them wide, so when I hit that front double bicep, they really flare, and trying to get them bigger so they appear to like connect, lower to my hips, my lower back. Even on my back double bicep, really trying to get the the fingers of those lats to really show and get the Christmas tree pronounced. Pretty much everything to do with lats. That's number one, and then shoulders and arms. Probably were next, and then I feel chest and legs kind of just grow as long as I just hit them good. But I've been really trying to figure out what is the key to my back, and then shoulders and arms. Back's been actually working pretty well. It's been getting more sore more than ever, so I feel like I'm developed. Even though I've been lifting forever, I feel like have made another good step in developing that mind-muscle connection and really be able to contract my lats and really get them working. So I've been getting my back more sore than any other time in the past. It usually hardly ever got sore, and that might be why it never really grew as much as the rest of my body. So hopefully it'll show next year on stage.
Right. How did you get into the industry, Butter, and start following the sport? What got you involved with it?
I feel like what bodybuilding is, I feel like it's always been something that even before I even knew what bodybuilding was, it was kind of something I kind of instinctively did. Maybe not to a bodybuilding level, but being young, working out in high school, always wanted to be big, be strong, stuff like that. I didn't really worry about size, proportion, stuff like that. But after high school was over, I started wanted to learn more, about lifting and getting bigger. So instead of just lifting like a football player, I started, bought like Arnold's Encyclopedia, stuff like that. Started learning more, even on deployments. I started getting into it, like doing, the one muscle a day split, like a bodybuilder and stuff like that. But the whole meticulous, almost obsessive type, drive that comes with it has always kind of been in me. Not even just with bodybuilding, when it comes in the military or, wanting to be the best there. Most people criticize bodybuilders for it, but really if you look at any other industry, the people that are at these elite levels of business or sports, they have almost this abnormal, like extraordinary drive that some people might describe as obsessive or something. But, because bodybuilding is like a physical sport, it's almost people look at it as being vain, but if it was applied to anything else, that's what really separates those elite people that we look up to, that are successful. And it's almost the same, but I've always kind of had that. So even on deployments, I would almost be obsessive about it. I don't know why, I just enjoy it, So, and then after the military, I was still lifting and wanting to get into it. And then I was security contracting. And then when I was home, we went and saw, I think, the first show we ever saw. It was here in Michigan, and Jay Cutler was the guest poser. I was like, man, this is sweet. And I was like, when I get done with this, I'll probably be done next year. I'm going to do this show. And I did that show. And that was the first time I did the show, so I committed to what I said I would do, even though it was a whole year later, did the show. I started prep, and like 20 weeks out when I was still in Iraq, I think about a month after I started prep, then I was home for good and just kept focusing on it and did the show. And it's just, ever since then, it's just been my goal to see how far I could take it, Yeah, so after high school, went into the Marine Corps, pretty much from the beginning. I went in the infantry because I wanted to be a scout sniper. From when I was younger, I was always, always into.
Dude, I totally turned that off too. I don't know how that did that. My volume turned off totally. Okay.
That'll be unique. We don't have to edit that out.
Yeah, that makes for those of you, that was my text messages jumping up.
Yeah, so I've always been interested in the whole, the whole elite military aspect. Like I said, it's something like that's always been in my blood since day one, even with sports or whatever I wanted to be. So either that or, being a Navy SEAL always was really enticing to me too, but my fire for all that kind of stuff's gone now. So, but I decided to go with the Marine Corps and then joined the infantry. I probably could have chose any job, but because I had a good ASVAB score, but my goal was go in infantry, become a scout sniper. So I went in the infantry, did the first deployment to Ramadi, Iraq, and late 05 to early 06. Came back, sniper platoon had an indoc, which is basically like tryouts. We just call them indocs. Had those, got selected to stay in the platoon, and then, like I said, I would say must have stood out enough because among those guys, then I got selected to go to sniper school in Hawaii. 10-week school. It's pretty tough. Discovery Channel stuff's done specials on them. If anybody ever gets a chance to check them out and see what it's actually all about, it's pretty motivating. It's pretty rough, but each division has a school. So that's 3rd Division in Hawaii. We got one in Pendleton, and then one in Quantico, Virginia. I'm almost thinking there was another one. I don't know if those are basically the ones that on the West Coast Marines we all get sent to. It was usually either Hawaii or in Pendleton, which is in California. Some people got sent to Quantico, Virginia. I almost think there's one in called Stone Bay or something on the far west or far east coast. But anyway, it's just basically there's one for almost every division. So that was just the one we got selected to go to because they had openings and slots and stuff. So got sent to that school there. Finished that, came back, went on another deployment. Actually went back to Ramadi. It was pretty calm at that point because it was 2007. A lot of stuff had died down. Finished out that deployment, and then I got out in in August 2008. Came home, went back to school. During the semester, I was looking into security contracting and stuff. Again, if you don't really know what that's all about, there's been specials on that. You can look on YouTube about what it's all about. But basically, it's like civilian security specialists. We run around in armored Suburbans and stuff, taking people from the embassy that need to go out in the city and have meetings with Iraqi officials and stuff. We just provide protection. So we're like our small little military unit, pretty much. A little bit of firepower, some armored vehicles, and just run the streets in Baghdad. So we did that. I did that for about 2 years. Like I mentioned before, some cool stuff. We protected Arnold Schwarzenegger. He came out, and Joe Biden, stuff like that. It was a good time. I probably missed that more than anything. Good friends, good job. Wasn't too stupid and crazy like the military could be sometimes. Yeah, so we did that, and then got done with that in 2011. Just been over home since, finishing school and kind of starting over from the bottom again, trying to find an actual civilian path, which can kind of get boring and dumb sometimes, but I don't know. It is what it is. But
what are you going with your degree?
Dietetics. Get in the Michigan State's program and get into dietetics. there's a, I don't really want to get involved in like clinical stuff like in the hospitals, and there is a subfield like sports dietetics, which kind of applies more of the stuff that like us as bodybuilders do, like post-workout carbohydrates and nutrient timing and stuff like that. Because I hear from friends that have graduated dietetics, it is kind of a pain in the ass because a lot of it's just old school nutrition and thinking outside the box, like doing higher protein diets and stuff like that. They'll just, if you mention it, they'll just make you feel like an idiot. Like, oh my God, that's way too high protein. You don't need that. So you just kind of got to keep your mouth shut. Yeah, right. Yeah, that's one thing I've always had with academics is if it's not in the book, people don't want to. People only want to learn what that professor has to tell them, and if it's out of the book, and and there are people that have open minds about stuff, but if it's not concrete and in the book, it's wrong. So, but things are changing all the times, and anyone in history who's ever been a revolutionary has always gone against the grain, and people have always called them stupid and crazy at first for coming up with such ideas, but then look who goes down in history, those people that go against the grain. So that's just one thing I have against certain academics. And
sometimes you'll have one professor who, like, I was a psychology major originally, so I had one who was all Freudian, and if you weren't Freudian, she would fail you. Nothing was biological.
Yeah.
Not to say there's not some stuff to Freud, but
right.
Most people would agree that it's a combination of things. Like you said, there's new information all the time. So
you get someone who's biased and who's already has their ideas locked into their head and is unwilling to expand off of them. It's frustrating. So I don't know. I'll just have to keep my mouth shut and get through the material and get the little check in the box, get that little piece of paper that says you did a good job and you graduated college. Good for you. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, man. Well, good luck with the rest of your off season. We'll definitely get some videos with you when you start your prep and everything as you get closer to the show. And hope you can add that weight you're looking at before you step on stage next year.
Cool. As always, thanks again for coming out and taking time to do this.
Yeah, is there anyone else you want to thank?
Yeah, just be strong. They've always letting us come out and shoot without any questions or any hassle. It's been my home gym for a while. My wife, always supporting my goals, no matter what, because you know how selfish it could be, and you put off friends and family for a little bit of time. A lot of people are like, oh, is it worth it? But it's only temporary, if you got the people that are close to you and understand what you're doing, it's only a few months, for prep, and you get through it, and then everyone's there at the end, which we're used to because with being in the military, going away for months or half a year, you give up life, you give up everything, and sometimes you might not come back. So it's nothing, so a lot of people just, I don't know, get too wrapped up in prep being too much, but it's really, you get through it. It's temporary, like anything else that sucks. But yeah, that's it. Before I start rambling again, I just want to say thanks to everyone and everyone who follows me and supports me.